TED Talk that you did was called that, right? You don't have to be a scientist to cure cancer. What inspired that? And how fabulous must that have been? I didn't get a chance to see it yet, but I hope everyone after this goes and takes a look at it.
Yeah. So that TED Talk that I gave it's kind of split into two halves. And in the first half, I talk about the research that I've been doing for 20 years. And so I have a research program where we are studying a certain really unusual type of anti-cancer drug. And it's unusual and it's not very well known, partially because it is so hard to get scientific funding. It is so much more difficult than you can imagine. And the result of that, for me and for many other researchers, is that things just don't move forward. And so there are drugs that have been stuck in clinical trials for decades that do have a lot of promise and that could help a lot of people, but they're stuck there just because of lack of funding. So I talk about, and in a very accessible way for a general audience, I describe the chemistry of these drugs and how they work. And then I address this issue of scientific funding and essentially how just anyone, not a scientist, can become involved with research that is going on by legitimate scientists who are trying to help people.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a hot button today.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
That we don't have enough strength around it. It's this. That's why your platform is going to be such a success, because they all need extra help in this area, and parents don't know how to necessarily coach their kids with science, right? If that's not what they do. Right. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think this is going to be phenomenal. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. Everybody check out the TED Talk, because 40,000 views is pretty epic.
It's fun too. I go in and I check on the comments and I'll respond to some of them. And some people are really angry and some people have, everyone has things to say. And I love it. Like, yeah, just say whatever you're thinking and feeling. And I'm all about it.
And like, do you talk about that on your podcast at all? I mean, do you get into like what people are saying and thinking and?
Not so much on my podcast. So my podcast, I have a co-host, Brian Hart, and we have a different kind of topic. It's not about science. It's not about rockstar anything. We have this kind of anything goes rapid fire sort of deal going where we both bring in 5 cool things that we found that week. And we go back and forth. We each get 2 minutes. And it's like, I'm like, here's this cool thing I found about. It's called the Hero Whispers podcast, and and I'll in 2 minutes. And then he'll go, wow, that sounds amazing. I just found this new app that I'm using all the time. And we just like boom, boom, boom. And by the time 25 minutes is over, the listener has learned 10 new things in a really concise format. It's super fun. It's really fast paced. And I love it.
Well, that's what we need. We need bite-sized content. So sure. That's amazing. So people need to, all listeners, you guys need to check out her podcast too, because, who wants to spend all this time reading, long articles?
Right.
Exactly. We want the cheat sheet.
Yes. And so that's where we got the name 10 Bestest, because it's like, these are the 10 best. And then I just love how like, that's not even a word. So we just sort of infuse fun into that. Like we don't take ourselves too seriously. So with 10 Bestest, you're getting the 10 best things of that week from us.
Well, that is really cool. I need to be listening to that every week. Is it on all the stations?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So we just did a rebranding, relaunch of it. So it is everywhere where you find your podcasts. It will be there. It is there.
10 Bestest. We have a lot of homework after this. Well, what do they expect? It's 2 professors talking.
Exactly.
We got a TED Talk. We got a podcast. We got a chemistry site. Woo! We got homework. Okay, I love it. Why did you become a professor? And you were a podcaster. You were doing radio and music. Where did you decide to become a professor, or like kind of in conjunction with that?
Yeah, well, I would say honestly, it goes back to my childhood of just loving science. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little story that tells you, you'll be like, oh, okay, that'll make sense now. So I'd be going to bed. I'm like 6 years old, and my dad goes in to read me a story before bed, and I'm like, no, don't read me a story. I want you to tell me about the digestive tract of our dog Shag. And so he would like map out the whole innards and the intestines and everything of our dog. And I just have always loved science, and I would sit around and read encyclopedias, and I've just loved it my whole life. And so I pretty much knew I was going to be a scientist or an engineer. And so it was like, it just made sense to be a professor, really.
Well, I'll tell you what, I cannot relate to that at all. However, I love how you knew that from the beginning. No, I could not relate to wanting to know about the insides of my doggy. Mm-mm. I love my dogs, but I only want to deal with the outsides.
Right? Right. Exactly.
Anyway,
I love. Yes. Well, yeah, and that's the thing is when you're a professor, like all these different types of professors and everything you can do with it, it's just incredible.
It really is. I mean, and you're really making a difference in mentoring, I'm sure, a lot of women. And I'm curious, just in the work that I do, is what is the trend and like could you say is there a number one trend that you're seeing with our girls, our Gen Z girls, as they, go through college or launch?
Yeah, I don't know if I can say generally speaking all Gen Z girls, so I can only speak to the ones that come to my college that I've been seeing. But I feel like the self-confidence isn't quite what it used to be. And I feel like a lot of it is something about their background when they come in, and I'm seeing them take these chemistry courses and they're not recognizing how smart they are. And that is one of my gifts is I see how smart they are and I see how passionate they are. And I'm just thinking of one student in particular this past semester where she was just struggling and just saying, oh, I'm just bad at science and I'm not getting it. And I talked to her about what else she liked doing, and she loved going and seeing K-pop bands, like when you could go see bands. This was right when COVID hit and everything was going crazy. And I was like, yes. And I wanted to talk to her about that because I know that if you can get excited and fired up about something, then that is going to feed into everything else that you do. And I wanted her to know she can do it and she has everything she needs. And that's just part of it is this, a lot of it being confidence and then recognizing your strengths and then applying your strengths to the things that you want to do. So it's kind of a subtle art to help people find their confidence, but it is so important to do.
You're singing my song again. I mean, that is exactly why I felt the need to do this work, because I feel like they are so fabulous and they don't know it. And once they know it, they can do anything. And I say, it's a quote from a movie. It's called Sucker Punch. It was circa 2011. And the quote was, you have all the weapons you need, now fight. I mean, you have everything you need. Like you just said, they have what they need. They just don't know how to like embrace it, package it, tie it up with a bow, and put it out there. So
exactly,
we as professors or mentors or whatever, we can help that, and we can help them be better, stronger, faster. So I love that. I love that you feel the same, even though you're on the left coast and I'm on the right coast, and we have the same philosophy and seeing different students in different colleges. But it's very similar. So I think it's I don't know. Maybe it's a product of technology.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I feel really strongly that leaders need to be vulnerable because everybody has imposter syndrome. Like there is no one who has not felt that. And that when they're feeling it, if they just recognize that, guess what? I have felt it too. I feel it too, even now with certain things. And that is a normal feeling, and that does not need to stop you. Everyone has their own way to be a leader, and they just need to find what is it they're good at, and that's the way they're going to lead. They don't need to lead in the way that's really stereotypical. You know, the person standing on the stage in a certain way and looking a certain way. Like, no, there's so many different ways to be a leader, and they can all be leaders in their own way.
Love that. I mean, would you say, if I had to ask you the number one piece of advice you would give to our young women, would that be it?
That is it right there.
Awesome. That's perfect, because you know I was going to ask you that question, so I'm glad you answered it before I even got to it. Love it, girl. All right. What else can you tell us about the Kids Rockstar? I'm saying the name wrong.
Yeah.
I apologize. The Chemistry Rockstar is the umbrella, but the Kids Science, what is that platform?
Yeah. So called? I'm gonna be calling that Science Rockstar Kids.
Science Rockstar Kids. Okay.
Yeah, because it won't just be chemistry. So I'm the chemistry rock star, but the kids, they need to learn physics and oceanography and whatever else, And I would say one of my missions is, now this is the thing, for me to do this, I will need to charge money. Like, it will be a membership site, but I don't want to just serve the people who can afford it. And so part of my mission is to, and I'm actually lining up this partnership right now to figure out the logistics of how to do it. But for every family that is paying, I want there to be a family who can't afford to pay, who's there. And I also, so when I was in high school, I was an exchange student to Colombia. So I became fluent in Spanish. And so I do want to make them also in Spanish. I have a good friend who's a sign language interpreter. I want to make it accessible to hard of hearing folks. And I really want, scientific method, learning, all that stuff is not just for a certain sect of people. It is for everybody. And I want to make sure that is true for everything I do, that it is for everybody.
What an amazing mission. You're super connected. That is, I'm sure, a product of all these things that you do in the world, all this beautiful music, quote unquote, that you put into the world, is going to allow you to pull this big sexy vision together. And that's beautiful, Karen. It's just I have chills going up my spine right now. Thank you for bringing this to the world. Yes, we need this.
And thank you. I haven't talked about this a lot with many people yet, so it's such a pleasure to be able to just express it here with you, and that you received it so wonderfully. So thank you.
It is going to be a phenomenal, epic. It is going to be amazing, and especially because it's coming from you, who is all heart. So, listeners, in case if you want to get in touch with Karen and find out more about Science Rockstar Kids, or about her all-girl punk band, or about her being an amazing chemistry professor, what's the best way for them to talk to you, to find you?
Yeah,
Karen?
So I would just go straight to chemistryrockstar.com, and you'll be able to connect with me directly via email, or find any of those things that we've talked about on the podcast today.
Super cool. Everyone, better check her out, listen to her music, and watch her TED Talk. And also, if you want the gift from today's show, which again is going to be, how do you use the podcast to find your voice and figure out what you want to do with your life, where you want to go, the direction you want to go in, ignite your passion and find your people. 3 ways to do that. So go to supergirls.com. That's our website. Supergirls, that's 2L, second L for love.com. Thank you, Karen, for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
And everyone, we'll see you next time. Until then, go out there